Good morning, brothers. It's good to continue in our study together. Mike, thank you for sending the next teaching. And I love this passage once again where it says, but even if we, the ones that already brought you the message of the gospel that changed your heart, that changed you on the inside, even if we should preach a gospel contrary to that, if we were an angel, preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let them be eternally condemned, is what the NIV 1984 version says. So the gospel that they preached was the gospel that saves, was the gospel that transforms, was the gospel that cuts them from the inside and heals their heart, cuts their heart, heals their heart, and makes them new creations. There's no other gospel that does that. In fact, there is no other gospel, and Paul made that clear, didn't he? Which is really no gospel at all. So any teaching, really, to answer the question, give an example of false gospels, any teaching that says it is the gospel, or leave and then proceeds to leave out the good news that Jesus Christ took our place, paid for our sin, died our death, was judged for us, condemned because of us, so that we might not be judged, that we might go free, that we might live differently and have new desires. Any teaching, any preaching that leaves out that message of the cross, the message of first importance that Jesus went to the cross to die for our sins, and that he was buried, and that he rose on the third day, if they leave that message out, then it is no gospel at all, even if it has Christian words to it and biblical passages in it. If it leaves out this main message of the Bible, if it leaves out the only message God gave us to go into all the world with, if it leaves out the message God gave pastors and evangelists and missionaries, the message of transformation, the message of freedom from sin, the message where our sins are forgiven and washed white as snow. Isn't that amazing? White as snow. Though we are filthy rags in God's sight, menstrual cloths in God's sight at the cross, we've been purified. Got freedom right here. Got freedom, or which way do you see it? Got freedom. At the cross, we have freedom. We can try harder. We can do all sorts of things, but nothing will work. No one can tame the tongue, and no one can tame the flesh. It must be put to death. The flesh must go under a death and a burial to be raised brand new, to be raised as a new creation. Without this message, there's no gospel at all. Without this message, there's no freedom at all. So another false gospel would be, walk this aisle, come down here and repeat after me. What is that? That doesn't affect the heart. That just affects the conscience. Trying to make right with God in your own strength, which doesn't work. You need to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. You can't do that. That's not the gospel either. This is real love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and gave his son to be a propitiation for our sins. Do you see? Do you see it? It must be wrapped around and anchored to the cross constantly, or it is no gospel at all. And so in our messages, in our teaching, in our preaching, in everything we do, we must deliver the message that delivered us, the message of first importance, the message that Paul said that I desire to know nothing else except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And we must believe it. For years, friends, I understood it in my head, but I didn't believe it in my heart, and therefore there was no effect at all in my life. I was the same man for many, many years. But it wasn't until my eyes were opened to see the love of God found in the death of Christ that put my flesh to death as I joined him on the cross, crucified with Christ and able to live because of Christ, that we have power to live new lives. This is the only gospel and the only message that can do it, can make new creatures and allow us to live new with new desires. And this is what saves our marriages. It saves our relationships. It saves our relationship with God first and with others simultaneously, doesn't it? Isn't that amazing? Makes us right with God and righteous before God through Christ's death and his resurrection power, and makes us have peace with one another. Amazing. It's an amazing message, and it's a message that we need to continue to believe. And so I love you, brother, so much, and we'll talk to you next time.